one of the things that's really interesting, me and Quinn were talking a little bit, and he was telling me how he's having a hard time focusing on, completing a singular task, which I've seen, right? I've given him, things to complete within the business, right? Whether it's been like ordering new shirts or, creating an incentive roadmap or, just simply finishing like a simple task like that in the business. And a lot of the times he's telling me how, he had this come up and that come up and he's got distracted and, he can't focus and he's got his boxing coming up and like all these things. And what's really interesting is the fact that in 2026, even someone who's in Quinn's position, someone who sold thousands of homeowners right at the door, I've made tens of thousands of dollars knocking door to door, selling window cleaning, more money than a lot of guys watching this will ever make. And so he's had a ton of success at a very young age. Even he has trouble sitting down and just completing a task without getting distracted with other things on his phone, videos, text messages, etc. Right? And in 2026, right, it's never been easier to win. But on the flip side of things, it's also never been harder because is so many distractions. Everything is trying to take your attention away. Everything is trying to sell you. Short form content is getting quicker and it's getting, it's getting shorter. It's getting like better. And what I mean by that is like the videos are getting higher quality, which means that you're more hooked into what's going on, right? Visual effects, audio effects, there's a lot more happening, right? If you scroll on Instagram, it'll show you exactly what you want to see and exactly what you don't want to see. I made a whole video on that. But it's never been harder because there's so many distractions nowadays. And so in a world where everything is taking your attention, trying to take your attention away from you, away from what you're doing, it's so hard to stay focused and like disciplined and dedicated towards one thing, completing that task and then moving to the next one because we feel like we need to do a bunch of things at once. We see people online who are crushing it, doing amazing. So we feel like we need to compare ourselves to them and our ages. And if we feel like we have someone else has a lot more money and they're younger, then, we're doing something wrong and all these kind of things. And we start to develop a victim mentality, which is 99% of people, right? This is the process. This is the thought process of most people, which is crazy, right? And on top of that, people are distracted, right? They can't focus on one thing. Their dopamine receptors are fried. They can't stay and just sit and just dial in on one thing over an extended period of time, right? That's why the people who watch these videos, these long format YouTube videos, right, are going to be absolute killers because you have the ability to sit and focus. I made a whole video on focus as well. So on one side of the spectrum, it's super easy because everyone's distracted. Your competition is so low. But on the other hand, right, you're constantly comparing yourself to these guys who have a lot more money than you and maybe even a lot younger, right? These social media gurus who have Lambos and Ferraris, and we feel like we should be there. On top of that, you have short form content trying to take your attention away, trying to hook you in, reel you in. And even after you watch videos over a long period of time, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, afterwards, you just feel like horrible. Like your brain is just such in a low frequency, right? Your mentality is off. You're negative. You're really like, you're kind of like, oh, like, what have I done? Like you regret your decision of like scrolling, but you go back into it the next day or maybe even like an hour later. It's like, it's so fucked up mentally, bro. One side of the spectrum, it's never been easier to win, but on the other side of the spectrum, it's also never been harder. Alrighty, boys. So I've just finished a sales clip. I just finished editing it and posting it. I've been doing them a little bit different where at the very top I have kind of like the framework I'm going through in the moment. So as I'm going through the breakdown of the services, at the very top of the page, I'll have a caption to the breakdown of services, so that the viewer knows, right, watching, right, if you guys have seen my sales videos, exactly where I'm at in the presentation, like the overall, framework that I'm at. And I keep it very like beginner level so that anyone who doesn't do door to door or hasn't been in sales, right, they can easily understand where I'm at in the process, right? So I'll have like the breakdown of the services, the price, the close, and if I get an objection, I'll go like the reframe or like the objection handling or the overcome, right? Like overall like basic things that most people can understand. But when, if you work one-on-one with my brother and I, like every 5 seconds, like 10 seconds roughly, but depending on like where it is within the sales process at the door, is a completely new or like different framework, right? I'll be talking about like, adding like a little thing here and there, like a little like joke, or like maybe I'll talk about this for a second, or maybe like I shift their focus to something else, right? So especially in sales as well, it's always about changing the prospect's focus and allowing them to focus on what matters and what you want them to focus on, right? Because what's right is always there and what's wrong is always there, right? There's a million reasons to do something in life, but there's always a billion reasons to not do something, right? So what's right is there, what's wrong is there. And so allowing them to, shifting their focus on what you want them to focus on so that they can ultimately make a decision that benefits them is the overall goal of sales, right, as a whole. And when you know how to do that at the highest level, right, you become, you almost develop like a superpower where you can change someone's perspective on something using your words and allow them to come to a decision that they wouldn't have made previously, but because they listen to what you're saying and you're able to shift their perspective on something, right, they therefore make a decision based on the person that they want to be and not the person that they are in the moment. Really, really cool stuff. Side note, God is good and this place is gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Got Nizo in the depths. Wild Nizo makes the cut. One of the biggest things I wanted to talk about in this video was inputs and focusing on what you need to do and not the outcome itself. I think so many people get wrapped up inside of what they want their life to look like and the goals and the cars and the money and the fame or like whatever the dream desired outcome is. And I think that's important because to change is never a matter of ability, it's always a matter of motive, right? What motivates you? What's your why? Right? Why do you wake up in the morning? What gets you out of bed? Right? What is the thing that's going to push you when things get difficult? And that could be anything, right? And depending on where you're at and what your goals are and what season of life you're in is going to depend on what your motivator is and what actually is going to push you to get to that goal, right? Although I think that having a goal is important and visualizing what your life will look like is a good thing, that shouldn't be the driving factor towards what you do on a daily basis and the things that you should be accomplishing daily. And so what this means is the goals that you're attempting to accomplish in the future of whatever that might be, right, on your journey on self-improvement, making more money, right, it's pretty much everyone's goal at the end of the day, right? The deciding factor between if you achieve those things, yes or no, but also in the time that you achieve them is dictated by what you do today and how consistent you are to the process and not focusing so much on the outcome. In fact, not focus on the outcome whatsoever, right? You need to detach yourself from the outcome, but also at the same time, you need to allow it to motivate you to do what is required today to get there, right? And only some of you guys are gonna actually understand this because only some of you guys have been in this state of mind or been in this mode, right? You call it monk mode or whatever you wanna call it, although it's not that bad. This mode of self-improvement, of being so focused on one thing, right, which is getting better, improving, right? You eliminate all the things holding you back and you add things in that are allowing you to progress forward, to become the best version of yourself, right? And sometimes I'll talk about how, when you're going through something really difficult, right, think of the goal, think of what you want to allow it to push you ahead, right? That is a time where that's a good thing, right? Think of the goal because that gives you the motivation, it pushes you. At the same time, you can't let yourself do less of what you know that you need to do when your expectations are lowered from the outcome that you thought you should already have. Right? And maybe I said that's super strange and weird, but maybe some of you guys already get it, some of you guys maybe don't. So I'll give you guys an example, right? If your goal is to, lose fat and gain muscle, for example, right? Which is like 99% of people, that's their goal, right? Overall. Let's say you go to the gym 5 days a week, right? When you go to the gym, you push hard, you work hard, you push your muscles to failure, right? You break the muscle fibers, right? So that's good, right? You also eat right, so your diet's in check, you're eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, awesome. And on top of that, you're sleeping 8 hours a night, which is perfect, which is the optimal amount of time that you should be sleeping for muscle recovery, right? Now, let's say at the end of the month, you look in the mirror at yourself and you thought you should have lost more weight. You thought that you should have been more vascular, more muscular, right? You thought that you should have looked better, right? Now, there's a couple things that happen here, right? Number one is you shouldn't put expectations on yourself based on the output, right? Like the goal, right? You losing the weight and gaining the muscle, right? Because if those expectations are not met, right, you feel like you didn't accomplish anything. You feel like even though you did all these things good, right, beforehand you didn't go to the gym, you didn't work on your diet, you didn't sleep 8 hours a night, you did all those things great for a month, because your expectations were not met, you felt like you should look better, you should feel better, right, you feel like you should be more vascular, but you're not, you feel like a failure, even though you've already progressed so much more in the last month, because your expectation is not met based on the output. You feel these emotions, right? You feel like you didn't accomplish enough. But in reality, you did. You progressed a lot. In fact, you progressed more in 1 month than you probably did your entire life. And so number one is set the expectations based on the inputs of what you need to do rather than the outputs of what you're getting. Because you cannot control the outputs. Your body will heal and it will grow at its own rate. Now you can do things to influence these things, right? You can eat more, go to the gym harder, work out more, right? You can go do more cardio to lose more fat. Like you can do things to influence these things. But you can't actually like physically change the metric itself. You can't change it, say, oh, I'm gonna lose this much weight in this much time. Your body does it at its own rate, but you can do things to influence it for sure, right? For anyone watching this right now who's in door-to-door running up their business, you can do things to increase the likelihood of the homeowner saying yes to you and you getting the sale and them getting the service done, whatever it is. But you can't actually force them to say yes, right? Now there's good salesmen and there's great salesmen and there's also bad salesmen, right? And the difference between like the bad and the great is their ability to influence, right, the situation or the homeowner, right, to get a desired outcome that ultimately benefits them. That's why they're great salesmen. And then another thing that happens after you look in the mirror and you feel like you should be further ahead, but you're not, even though you did everything great for an entire month, is the fact that you will allow your emotions to dictate whether you continue doing what you should be doing, which is the biggest problem of all. All you have to do is focus on the inputs, which is moving you closer towards that goal. But because you feel like you should have been further ahead, you feel like you should have been in better shape, you feel like you should have lost more weight, you feel like you should have gained more muscle, You let the lowered expectation dictate whether you continue doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so now I talk a lot about, simply just focus on the inputs. If you do everything in your power to become a better version of yourself in a day, that is a win, right? If you go to the gym and you sleep right and you eat right and you work on your skill set, you work on your business, but you see no improvements, right, whatsoever, that is still a win. That is a win, right? Look at wins based on the input of what you do, things that you can control, and not the outputs of what you're trying to get from it, right? Things that are not in your control. And so that's been one of the biggest things I've had to focus on, me personally, especially moving forward with where I'm at in my life, is not focusing on the financials, not focusing on the money, not focusing on the outcome, even like my physique. Like I have a physique which I really like, but is it close to where I want it to be? No. Do I want to be leaner? Yeah. Do I want to be more muscular? Yeah, of course, right? And am I doing everything in my power every day to make that happen? No, I could be doing more. I 100% could be doing more, right? I'm working out about 5 times a week right now. I could be going 6. I'm definitely not eating enough grams of protein per day, 100%. I'm sleeping right, which is good. I'm also doing cardio, so there's things that I'm doing which are good. Again, I'm focusing on inputs, right? But even in the business, right, we're at a spot right now where we are very early on in terms of our coaching business. And so the reps that I put in now, right, the videos I put out now, the YouTube videos, the short form pieces of content, right, the results of the very few amount of guys we work with one-to-one right now, their results that they're getting, right? Everything that happens now will have a huge impact on the future of our business, right? The future, right? The effort and energy that I put in now, I'm not going to see the results. I'm not going to see the fruits of my labor. I'm not going to see it in terms of a financial statement until, weeks, months later down the line, maybe even years. And so this allows me to continue doing what I'm supposed to be doing day in and day out, because I know that it's going to pay off. I know that if I go to the gym now, I'm not going to see the results until a couple weeks later, maybe even a month later. I know that if I start running every single day, which I've been pretty consistent, I've been running for about 2 weeks now, the results that I started putting in 2 weeks ago when I started running consistently, I'm only going to see that progress now, or maybe even like a week later. Money and the result and the output of what you're trying to achieve is always a lagging indicator. You never see it the same day, the same week, no, maybe even the same month, right? It all depends and it varies, but it is always a lagging indicator. It takes time and you have to be patient, but more importantly, you need to just focus on the inputs of what you need to be doing day in and day out, and allow yourself to detach from the outcome of what you want, but also allow it to motivate you at the same time to understand and bring you back to reality of why you're doing what you're doing. Don't get so lost in, the inputs of, oh, like I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and then not enjoy your life. Like for sure, enjoy your life, bro. Like enjoy the pain, enjoy the suffering, right? Allow this to, allow this to become who you are in your lifestyle and enjoy it, right? This doesn't have to be miserable. This doesn't have to be something that you go through every day and every night and be like, oh, like this, I hate my life. Like, no, enjoy it, bro. A lot of the times, these mental frameworks that I keep in the back of my head when I'm going through this process of, focusing on the inputs, not the outputs, right? Putting everything in God's hands, not focusing on the financial situation, the financial statements of, all this kind of stuff. It's simply because I don't know what else I would think if I didn't think these things. Like if God didn't exist and if I didn't believe in God and we were just here because we were just a random amount of atoms that, the boom theory, we're just a crazy amount of atoms that just came to being and we somehow have consciousness and God doesn't exist, I would probably just kill myself, because I've gone through so much bullshit in my life where there has to be a deeper meaning behind this. Like there's a reason I went through all this. There's a reason, right? I lost all of my money. There's a reason I've gone through the pain and the suffering. And as a Christian, when you give your life to God and you ask Jesus to come into your heart and to, you ask him to forgive you for your sins, right? And when you declare that Jesus is your, Lord and Savior, at the end of this life, it's not the end. In fact, it's just the beginning, right? We go to heaven, we live the rest of eternity with God in heaven, right? And it allows me to understand that this life is temporary, and what I have, what I quote unquote feel like I have, is not actually mine. I'm just borrowing it. This body, I'm just borrowing it, right? My phone, I'm just borrowing it. The clothes I have on my body, it's not actually mine. I'm just borrowing it for the time being. Knowing that is just so freeing, and it's just a sense of peace. And when I'm going through this process of self-improvement, that is another mental frame I have of this is awesome. It's good to be on self-improvement and to feel good at the end of every day, knowing that you did something hard and you progressed and you're 1% better. But at the same time, simply knowing that none of this really matters, right? It's all just temporary. And the most important thing in the entire world is, it's not the money, it's not, it's not your progress, it's not all this bullshit that we put so much value on. It's your relationship with God and your relationship with Jesus, because that is the only thing that matters after this life. And so that's another really freeing mental framework that I keep in the back of my mind as I'm going through this, my life of self-improvement, of doing what is required, going through the hard things because I have to, not because I want to, and becoming the best version of myself. Even though I have these goals, like I want a Lambo SVJ, I want a fuck ton of money, or I want multiple houses around the world, I want to provide for my mom, my dad, and travel the world with my brother. I want to do all these things. I can't do them right now, and that is why I do what I do every single day so that I can achieve that. But I don't let the result of when I should get those things dictate the things that I need to be doing and that I continue to do every single day. It allows me to have clarity and real sense of peace that none of this really matters. And the only thing that really matters is your relationship with God. Focus on the inputs, boys. Focus on what you need to be doing, not the outputs of what you're getting out of it, because the outputs will come, right? You cannot force this process. You can influence the process, right? If you want to get to where you want to go quicker, right, just do more. It's volume, game of volume. But at the same time, things will happen at their own pace. Things will happen when they are meant to happen. Things will happen, right? Everything will land into place, kind of like a puzzle piece fitting into like the perfect position, right? That'll happen when it's supposed to happen. That is what we do every single day, right? That is why self-improvement is a thing, because we are actively making the best steps forward to become the best version of ourselves and to obtain the result, to obtain the goal, to get to where we want to go in every aspect of our life. But we can't force the process, unfortunately. And if you do force the process, for example, e.g. you take steroids, where do you end up in the end after that, right? Not good. Or let's say, you want to make a ton of money and become a multimillionaire, but you screw over a business partner, right? Or maybe you steal a bunch of money, or you fuck someone over, right? Or you do something super unethical to make a lot of money, like OnlyFans, for example, right? That, in the end, maybe you make a bunch of money in the short term, right? Maybe it's great, maybe it's awesome, but in the end, God is always watching. Maybe it's great in the short run, but in the long run, it's not going to be very good. And so that's one of the biggest things I'm going through right now mentally, is just understanding that it's all in God's hands, and when things will happen when they're meant to happen, but also I need to be doing my part every single day of focusing on the inputs, what I need to be doing, and not the outputs of what I'm getting out of it, because everything is coming. And God says in the Bible that there's a bunch of things in the Bible. I don't even know what he says, honestly. I need to start reading my Bible. To be honest. What is up, boys? So we just spent about 4 hours working at our desk. Got the new CRM set up with all of the homeowners imported, which is awesome. And then we also got our VA. It's our very first day today. Shout out Lindsay. She's going to be calling homeowners very soon after we send out the bulk message to all the homeowners. My next plan of action is very, very simple. Just creating a script for her to call up the homeowners that we helped last year, getting them on a service plan, and then scheduling them into the schedule so that we can have cleaners go by, do the jobs, collect payment, all this kind of stuff. And this is how we create systems in the business, guys. And I'll be real with you guys, like this is all very new, right, to me. Like having a VA, pitching service plans instead of the one-time cleans, creating incentives for the homeowners, right, making it a very easy, very seamless process for them and their experience with our company and our business. So again, there's a lot. I feel a little bit lost while going through this process. But this is what is required, right? And the more I do this, the better I'm gonna get, right? And so these feelings that you feel, bro, when you try anything new for the first time, right? And you're like, oh, I feel lost. Am I doing this right? Right? Everyone has that feeling when they first start anything, and it is normal, and it is unrealistic for you to feel like an expert or be amazing at what you do the first time that you do it, right? And so the key is just one step at a time, moving forward. There's about five main things that I need to do based between my coaching business and my window cleaning business. And I just need to understand, like, what is the highest ROI task? What needs to get done as soon as possible? Okay, cool. Let's focus on that. Let's do it. Complete it. Awesome. Move to the next one and just keep moving forward. But anyway, boys, I've been sitting at my desk for a long time, and I just need to take a mental break. So I want to make this video to update you guys that this takes time, and it's hard, right? It's difficult to sit there and go through it and to create solid systems that you believe in. And at the beginning, we want everything to be perfectly optimized and amazing, but a lot of the times the trick is just starting whatever you need to be doing. So my next step after I create the script is just going to be calling homeowners and recording them so that I understand exactly like the script works, right? Scheduling some people into the schedule, right? Getting some credit cards on file. And then I'm going to understand, okay, cool, I'm getting these objections, this is how to overcome them. And then I'm going to optimize my script from there. But it all starts from repetition and starting the process in terms of, what you need to get done, right? It's like going to the gym for the first time. You're not going to feel like an expert. The trick is just going there, lift some weights, and then figuring out what's optimal later on with how much weight, what is the best range of motion for what I'm doing, what is the best weight depending on my body weight, my strength and my experience. So anyway, boys, if you guys are, in a spot where, you know what you need to do, but you feel like out of place, you feel, you're doing something wrong, you feel super uncalibrated, it is normal, it is a part of the process, and this is what is required to grow, to become a better version of yourself. Because me in a couple of weeks, even like a couple of days from now, when I'm going through this process, I'm going to be a lot more confident than the version of myself I am right now. But I have to go through this in order to become it, right? So anyway, boys, I'm going to take a mental break here. I'm actually going to meditate for a little bit, just to like reset my brain, just to kind of get back into staying focused, and drink some water, might go touch some grass, just kind of like recalibrate myself. a little bit, and then just get back to work, boys. So what is going on, boys? So it has been a couple days later since that last clip. Guys, yesterday I was on a call, shout out Lucas Limitless. Had an amazing call with him and a couple other guys in the window cleaning door-to-door space, and it was really good because, again, guys, this was like a 12-hour call. It was like super long, but we talked a lot about, selling recurring plans. We talked a lot about God, about life. Again, it was like extremely long call. And again, this goes back into something I talk about a lot, which is surrounding yourself with people who are in a position you want to be in. There's very few guys in this space. We've knocked doors. I've said the same pitch thousands of times. There's a lot of guys in this space I feel like I can't learn a lot from, and Lucas is one of those guys that I definitely look up to. And so shout out Lucas, and shout out all the other guys like Ethan and Dan, some of the boys who were on that call. Caleb Cleans as well, because these guys are absolute legends, and it goes a lot further in terms of like door to door and like window cleaning. These guys these guys are Jesus followers. These guys are Christians. But something extremely interesting that I thought about this morning, I actually texted Lucas about, was number one is there's very few amount of people that are in the door-to-door window cleaning niche, number one, right? Because it's a hard game, it's hard to knock doors, and it's hard to do it consistently and make that your full-time income. Now, you can make a ton of money with it, but that doesn't mean that it's easy, right? There's a lot of moving parts to running your business. That's number one. Number two, very few amount of people actually make content about that, who are content creators, who are, showing people the journey, showing people the good and the bad. I mean, number one, there's very few amount of people who make content. Number three is there's very few amount of people who make content who are actually authentic and who actually post valuable videos, dropping sauce, helping people become a better version of themselves outside of the niche. There's already a small percentage of people who run the business model full time. There's a smaller percentage of people who make content about that model. There's a smaller percentage of people who run the business, make content about that, who are actually authentic and talk about other things other than window cleaning or door to door, and who document their journey in the process. In fact, like me and Quinn, or at least I'm the only one who talks about God and about Jesus and about mindset other than window cleaning in like the niche in this space, right? I'm the only one. And that's something where I'm actually kind of proud of, because a lot of the guys in the space are, it's an ego thing. They don't want to post about it. They don't want to talk about God. They don't want to, show the losses, right? They only want to show the wins because that gets the most attention, whatever it is. But people don't resonate with that, right? And so this is something where an extremely small percentage, and maybe there's a couple people online, but I have not seen them. Nobody talks about their life outside of door-to-door or window cleaning or the business, right? It's very niche. Some of these guys in the space only talk about the window cleaning and selling and the business and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, great, you want to talk about that. But in terms of where I want to go with the future of our coaching business, the future of our window cleaning business, I want people to know who we are, right? What do we stand for? Like, what do we believe in, right? What are the principles and the standards that we hold ourselves to outside of window cleaning or door to door? Because it's so much more than that. It's self-improvement. It's getting closer to God. It's all these really cool things. To wrap this main point up, the circle of people who run their business, make content about it, are authentic about that content, and also, number four, is talk about God, is extremely low. It's an extremely small percentage of guys in this space. And the guys who we were on a call with last night are absolute legends, and those are the kind of guys that I want to surround myself with, because again, right, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I feel like I got a lot to learn about service plans. I got a lot to learn about God. I got a lot to learn about running this franchise model for our window cleaning business, and even the future of our coaching business, where we teach guys how to start and scale their own window cleaning business. I got a lot to learn, and guys who also, in a sense, like qualify in all 4 of those specific regards, right? Because that's me. Those are similar things to me, and that's the kind of guys I want around me. I don't want to, I don't want to learn from somebody who just knows how to run the business. Like, like, what's your relationship with God? Like, what are your morals? What do you stand for? Because now I know I can trust you, right? I know where you get your information from. And again, right, you get really good at sales. You get really good at reading people. You know when someone's authentic. You know when they're, they're talking shit, or when, they are real and the things that they talk about are legit and they have passion behind what they talk about. They have emotion behind it. And you can tell when people are fake as fuck. And the guys that we hopped on a call with last night are the furthest thing from that, right? These guys are Jesus followers. They want to self-improve. They want to get better. They run the door-to-door biz. They want to scale the business, right? And it's super important that we surround ourselves with guys like that. The things that Quinn talked about after this morning, after we got off the call last night, we got off the call at like 4 a.m. or like 4:46 a.m. There's like a 12-hour and 46-minute call. It's crazy, right? One of the things that Quinn mentioned on the story is, for sure, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so find the people who are, who hold the values that you want to hold, people that are better than you, people that you can learn from, right? And anyone who drags you down, anyone who pulls you away from those things, remove them from your life, right? Remove them. Friends, family, whoever is holding you back from becoming the better version of yourself, you need to remove them, or you will stay the same and nothing will change, and it will hold you back from becoming the best version of yourself. And anyway, so I don't really know what this vlog is going to be about, boys, but I'm really just making these videos to document the process of what we're going through right now. We are heading back to Canada on the 23rd, boys, and it's currently the 20th as I'm filming this. Super excited to see my dad again, my mom, see my family, and to start knocking doors and selling recurring plans. And I'm just, again, making this video to document the process, document the journey, what we're going through, what I'm going through mentally. Again, I really don't know what this video is going to be about. I still got to edit it and everything. But hopefully, you know, you've taken some value in this video in terms of what I'm talking about and have implemented the, you know, whatever I'm talking about into your own life, and it's benefited you, I hope. And anyway, boys, going to wrap it up here. If you guys did enjoy any aspect of this video, you learned anything, amazing, DM me on Instagram or look in the comments down below exactly what you learned. I'll be sure to make more of these kind of videos, like vlog style videos in the future. But anyway, boys, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.